So here are the gauges in the pod. This is an Autometer pod. I think I paid like $60 for it. Got these Gloshift gauges. Got fuel level, oil pressure, water temperature, and voltmeter, just like on the factory style console gauges. I've had really good luck with these Gloshifts, so that's why I'm going back with them. And they say this will fit right in place of these factory gauges on a 68 and 69. I decided to get rid of these because the temperature sender has no, or the temperature gauge has no actual readout. The fuel gauge doesn't work, and the ammeter doesn't work as well. And I did put a new sending unit in that fuel gauge. I do also have the factory tachometer hiding back there. I do plan on fixing that eventually, and then I'll get rid of this aftermarket one. But one thing I want you to keep in mind when you get this is they give you the sending units. They're 1/8 inch NPT. They don't give you any reducer bushings or anything, as is standard. They don't give you what you need. So whether you put it here on the factory position for this driver's side cylinder head, or you put it here, you'll need a reducer bushing. I believe it's a 1/2 inch. I'll confirm that in a minute, but yeah, you'll need a reducer bushing to put it in there. So don't forget to buy one of these. Okay, so got the socket on there. I know this is gonna be a mess. It's just a guarantee, so whatever. Okay, now that I got this out, I'm gonna take this gauge pot off first. So it looks like we got some little 11/32 or whatever screws in here, I think, that hold it on. I don't know. Let me get the stuff and we'll just find out, and I'll let you know after. A couple of 1/4 inch bolts under here. Let me just take those loose real quick. Man, I can't get my hand in there. Give me just a second, I'll show you when I'm done. I can't really hardly film this. Okay, I got the 2 bolts out, which is kind of tough, but not too bad. Now, the only thing holding it in is that oil pressure sending unit line, which is jammed up in there. It's that little nylon line. I'm gonna cut it because I don't plan on using it again. If I did, I'd put new line anyway. So give me a second and I'll get that cut and pull this thing out. Okay, got that thing cut. And now I got the whole pod out. See, there's a little nylon tube right there. And look, it comes out. Everything's easy to access. They say you have to take the console out to install this gauge pod. I don't believe that's going to be the case. Let's just take a look. I don't think that's going to be the case. Actually, there's a nice fit in there as it is. I mean, I don't see why you need to take the console out. Those 2 back screws might be kind of tough to get to, but I don't know. I think we'll just figure it out when we get there. Okay, you're not missing out on anything. I just unplugged all the factory wires. You can disconnect this harness down here, but I'm going to use a few of these things, and I want to leave that ashtray light. So I'm just going to leave this hooked up and just take this thing out. Okay, here's what I've got. I've got all 4 of the connectors to the gauges here. And yeah, this is kind of a spaghetti mess, but I'm going to start out simple. The first thing I'm going to hook up is the grounds for all these. I've already got all the wires run. This one is a ground that you see. This one is switched. This red is constant. And this is the sending unit wire to the water temperature gauge. I still have to run the oil pressure wire for the sending unit. So let me get started with this. I'm going to solder all the negatives or the grounds in first. Then we're going to go from there. All right, here's the ground. Heat shrink tubing going. Need to get that's looking pretty good. So all the grounds are now hooked up. I got 4 gauges and the sending unit wire all grounded. So that's the water temperature gauge. All the other gauges are hooked up. Now I just got to do one more thing, and that's the sending unit wire. Now all I'm doing is looming these together. I hope you guys can see that. There it is. That's a whole lot neater than it was. Easier to work with too. Okay, now these illumination wires, they have the possibility to get out and arc on something, so I got to tape them up. I don't want to get rid of them again. I'm trying to keep all this factory stuff as much as I can. So I'm just going to... Alright, I just plugged all the gauges in. Let's give them a test, make sure they work, and power on. This one won't read anything, and of course this one won't read anything yet. Let's just see. Still got to hook up the sending units on these two. Yeah, I kind of like the green. I'll probably leave it on that once I get it all said and done. But yeah, look, working pretty good. Let's get it finished. Okay, so I put the screw that I have in there. I lost the other freaking washer, but I don't think it's so big a deal. And what I did is I just kind of loosened it up a little bit. Kind of had to fine tune it and play with it. But all you have to do to put this little gauge set in is just kind of get it in place and wiggle it back and forth. And there you go. Now your console is installed, and the only thing left to do is put in the two screws down here. Okay, so I've kind of messed with this off camera, been trying to get it to fit right, and it's just being a pain in the butt. So I think I'm going to go back and revert to the classic style of mounting, which is external hardware. I don't know why they had to be all technical with this thing. So whatever. I'm just going to put my own mounting holes here. It's 150,000 times better than the crap they give you. Holy crap. This is terrible to deal with. Pretty done? Yeah, sure. It's like, great, won't work. I'll again. Technical stuff seems normal. Great. There you go. Look at that. We're going back to 1968, which is when the car was freaking made anyway. There we go. If you think that looks bad, you're lying to yourself. Because again, that's the way they made it back in 1968. Looks just fine to me. Looking pretty nice to me. I don't see what the big deal is with that. Just give me external hardware. It's so much easier to work with. I did put a nut on the back side of that. All right, I put the pressure sensor here. Originally, it was under that oil, or above that oil filter adapter, and impossible to get to. So I just put together what I had. Might get the right reducer later, but that's what I got for now. Now let's give the gauges a test and make sure they work right. It's doing great. Gauges work. Fuel gauge is pretty accurate. They aren't flickering in real life, by the way. That's just a camera effect. Got 20 pounds of pressure at idle, run about 200 degrees.